In 1918, the German government sent an official diplomatic protest to the United States military, not about artillery, not about poison gas, not about anything they had invented. They wanted to ban a shotgun. They called it a war crime. They threatened to execute any American soldier caught carrying one. And when the U.S. refused to comply, the Germans had no choice but to keep fighting men who were walking into their trenches with what they called an instrument of pure slaughter. This is the Winchester Model 1897, and this is the real reason the German army was terrified of it. Let's set the scene. It's 1917. The United States has just entered World War I, and the Western Front is not a battlefield in the traditional sense. It is a maze of dirt trenches, narrow, dark, barely wide enough for two men to pass, stretching hundreds of miles across France and Belgium. In that environment, a rifle is almost useless. Too long to swing, too slow to reload. At 10 feet, you don't need accuracy. You need carnage. The U.S. military already had the answer. It had been sitting in American duck blinds and police departments since 1897. The Winchester Model 1897, a pump-action shotgun chambered in 12-gauge. What made it special wasn't just the fact that it fired a spread of lead pellets that could hit multiple men with a single trigger pull. What made it devastating was this. It had no trigger disconnector. That means you could hold the trigger down, pump the action, and it would fire immediately, every single time. In a trench, that meant you could unload all 6 rounds in under 3 seconds. In a dark, narrow corridor where the enemy was 5 feet away, you didn't miss. You couldn't miss. American soldiers called it the trench sweeper. And once it entered the war, the Germans knew something had changed. On September 19, 1918, the German government submitted a formal diplomatic note. The exact text cited the Hague Convention of 1907, the international treaty designed to limit the brutality of warfare. Their argument was that the shotgun caused unnecessary suffering, that the multiple projectiles, the wide spread, the virtually guaranteed wound at close range, it violated the laws of civilized war. Now pause for a second and think about that. This is the same war where both sides use chlorine gas, mustard gas, flamethrowers, artillery shells designed to detonate inside bodies. The same war where men were ordered to walk across open fields into machine gun fire. And the thing that broke Germany's sense of fair play was a shotgun. But here's why the protest actually makes sense when you understand the psychology of trench warfare. Most of the weapons on the Western Front, no matter how lethal, felt impersonal. A shell kills from a mile away. Gas drifts through the air. A machine gun fires hundreds of rounds, hoping some connect. The trench shotgun was intimate. You saw the man. You pumped the action. You fired. And in a 10-foot wide dirt corridor, there was nowhere to go. German soldiers weren't afraid of dying in this war. They were used to that. What they feared was the specific horror of meeting an American with a Winchester in a trench at midnight. The German protests went further. They didn't just ask for it to be banned. They threatened to treat any captured American soldier found with a shotgun as an unlawful combatant, meaning no prisoner of war protections, meaning execution. The U.S. Army's response was direct. The Secretary of War issued an official rebuttal. The argument: the Hague Convention does not prohibit shotguns. It prohibits weapons that cause unnecessary suffering. But the shotgun, the U.S. argued, is no more brutal than a bayonet, which everyone used, and is arguably more humane because it kills faster. The U.S. refused to stop issuing the weapon. American soldiers kept their Winchesters. And here's the part that rarely gets mentioned. The U.S. didn't just defend the shotgun diplomatically. They doubled down tactically. They began issuing specialized equipment with the M1897, including a bayonet lug, so soldiers could attach a knife to the end of their shotgun. Because apparently, if the Germans were upset about the shotgun alone, the U.S. military solution was to add a blade to it. By the end of World War I, the trench shotgun had earned a reputation that outlasted the war itself. And when World War II began, it came back. The M1897 saw service again in the Pacific Theater, where island-hopping combat meant jungle paths and bunker corridors that felt disturbingly similar to the trenches of France. U.S. Marines carried them on Guadalcanal, on Iwo Jima, in the tight spaces where a rifle was a liability and a shotgun was survival. The weapon eventually evolved. The military adopted the M97 successor, the Model 12, and later the Ithaca 37 and Remington 870. But the principle never changed. In close-quarters combat, a shotgun doesn't just wound. It stops. Immediately. Completely. And that principle is still alive today. Modern military and law enforcement shotguns are direct descendants of the philosophy the Winchester proved in 1917. The Germans wanted it banned because it was too effective, and that is, in a strange way, the highest compliment a weapon can receive. A 12-gauge shotgun made 4 Allied nations nervous enough to file a diplomatic protest in the middle of the deadliest war the world had ever seen. They didn't succeed. The weapon stayed. And for the American soldiers who carried it through dark trenches in France, it wasn't a war crime. It was the reason they came home.